Welcome back to a Broken Fuse podcast. This is episode 68 for March 13th, 2023. Uh, we have Harley here today with us.
Hey guys.
It's been a while since we've podcasted. It's got a little busy, and yeah. So, what have you been playing recently?
We were talking before this started, right? And my Game Pass is expiring. It just expired, and so I was on this like mission to finish Titanfall 2 and Gears 5, which I had wanted to finish for a long time, but just didn't get to it. So this past like little bit, I managed to get through it. Relatively, I guess, relatively short games for most people, but for me, like it was like an accomplishment. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I finished a game, and especially Titanfall. I just think like the movement in that game is like I don't think I've played anything else that's similar. So really really enjoyed it, and yeah, I'm not. I don't think I'm just gonna leave my Game Pass for now. Just not renew it. Just buy games if I want to play. And take it at my own speed, which is really slow. So
Yeah, for sure. Haven't been able to play as much as I'd like with work and stuff. Getting pretty busy. Been playing some Animal Crossing and a bit of the original Octopath Traveler. As the new one just came out, I think in the last 2 weeks. I think.
yeah, but you can play like I guess it depends, right? Like you have if you bring your Switch on site, you could probably still you know
Yeah,
like knock in a couple sessions. But I guess it depends if you're super swamped and and also it's kind of cold outside right now. So it's not like you're just gonna hang around in the car, right? So,
yeah,
but but yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like I feel like subscription. Uh, like let's pretend Nintendo had a Game Pass equivalent. I don't know if it's worth getting. Like for us,
yeah.
it's
They do
just
have somewhat of
yeah.
a thing going with the Nintendo Switch Online subscription, where you do get older games from I think the Game Boy, I think GBC or the GBA. I can't remember. The NES, the SNES, and the N64.
Mm.
They have a small selection of retro titles that they've put in a collection
It,
for.
yeah, but that like honestly, it's like I think it just. I mean, it's not. If they really wanted to, they could do a much better job of putting together a package to subscribe to.
Yeah,
I think Nintendo. The thing is, Nintendo titles are so like. I feel like they have good replay value, and generally speaking, they kind of maintain their price. So
yeah. Even 20 years
yeah,
down the line, like a
yeah,
lot
they're
of
not
us
going
played the
anywhere.
crap.
And
Yeah, a lot of us
yeah,
played the crap out of the older Smash Bros. Like
yeah, yeah,
N64, the like Brawl, Melee. Like it still gets pulled out during parties. Same thing with all
yeah,
like Mario Kart, uh, Mario Party. A lot of the older ones get pulled out every so often.
yeah, yeah. And I think Nintendo's not really like they're not really known for like they don't take loss on hardware. They don't, like they just kind of it's not their model, right? Like Microsoft is actually losing money with Game Pass. Like the amount of money they spend to acquire studios and titles and whatever versus like how much they're earning from Game Pass is like they're still losing money, right? They're just trying to steal market share and get people on their platform, right? So,
Yeah,
um, and I think that's why like Game Pass is such a sweet deal. But
if
then
you have the
I've had
time
it
to sink
for
into it.
yeah, and I've had it for the last like I got the Series X pretty early on. Like I had a friend that helped me out and hooked me up pretty early on, and so I mean I've had it for 3 years. And I've really played like maybe I want to say 7 or 8 games like to completion, right? And you know, is it really worth it for someone like me? Like probably not in hindsight, obviously. But I think the vast majority of gamers, like people that play, if you play like even just I think 2 to 4 hours a week, I think it's worth it. Uh, but if you're like me, where you'll go months without playing it, um, it's really not worth it. Any sort of subscription, right? So Nintendo, they're not going to have a decent subscription package. I don't think they ever will. And then Sony is very reluctant to do the same, right? Like they just different strategies, right? I think if everybody did the same thing, I mean, that would be a win for consumers, right? I
Yeah.
mean, gamers it'd be great, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I also don't really care, like from my perspective, and I think the vast majority of people playing with a full time job or with other commitments, it's just very hard to really take advantage. Um, but that said, I almost want. We were talking about backlogs and our backlogs of games
That go
we
back
need to get
like
through.
decades, basically, at this point.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, you know what? Like, I think I don't know. Maybe I'm just not like sophisticated enough now, like in terms of like, or maybe it's just that games have evolved so much that like a good game, like back in the day, like you know, the latest version or the next gen whatever would be definitively superior to like the previous gen, right? Because the graphics would be so much better, the gameplay is so much better. They would introduce online when there wasn't online kind of a thing, right?
Yeah,
And now like everything's pretty much there, right? So the only thing is like, okay, graphics are improved, right? Frame rates, like uh,
to a
refresh
certain
rates are
extent.
higher, or like Devil May Cry has a next gen version, which is the same thing except it's a higher FPS. So yeah, like it's smoother. Okay, cool. Or there's like DLC packages that you can get like later on. It's just like the improvements are like they're very much incremental. And I think that's what I'm saying. Like if you play a game that's like 4 or 5 years old, it's still like very good. So like the games that we have on our backlogs, like I want to play Red Dead Redemption 2, which is, I mean, that's like a 70-hour commitment, right?
And
Um,
it still
uh,
looks pretty good for like a five
oh,
plus
it's
year old
it's
game.
yeah, it's great, right? And then I think I want to try Cyberpunk. I know a lot of people, with the bugs and everything, but I mean, they've been fixing it over time, and it was supposed to be like a huge release, right? And so, I think there's a lot of games that, at least for us, like we haven't played through everything immediately on release. If you're patient, if you just like, okay, like just kind of
Wait
like
it
don't really
out.
look at release dates. Just because it's not even. I don't even need to. I don't feel like I'm waiting because I don't have time. So like it's just like when you're evaluating what game to play. Like there's no need to play the latest. Instead, just choose from what is the best in the last like 7 or 8 years or whatever runs on your console or your PC. And generally speaking, it's a there's a lot to choose from. Very good, high quality games that are not necessarily released this year or has 4K or whatever, but it's like it's still very good, right? And so, um, but this year there's a lot of
Big
uh,
titles.
uh, yeah coming out, right?
Yeah, like
And I mean it's great, but I'm not like in any rush, right? I'm like I got plenty to go
yeah,
through before I even get there.
yeah, like some big titles that like I'm looking forward to was like Metroid Prime Remastered, which got released maybe a month back, and from what I've seen from friends online, it's like it looks like really good. For like
Yeah.
it got like the color depth is there. It's like the controls are great, and there's like other big titles like Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, which they're bumping
Yeah.
the price up. It's like Canada full titles are $80. This one's coming in at 90.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before we hit that $100 mark. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
for a AAA
yeah.
title, but it's like
Well, so here's the thing though. Yeah, I know like AAA titles, always a bit, but the DLCs, man. Like if honestly, you can charge $120 for a game, and if it comes fully complete or with the concept of releasing DLCs down the road and you get those DLCs with no additional charge, I'd be okay with that. Especially for, top tier titles, right?
yeah, it's like
Um,
bake it
yeah,
into the production cost. Like, hey, it's gonna be a little extra, but you get all of this like DLC.
right. But the problem is, it's the whole concept of like, okay, let me sell you a game for $60 or $50 or free, and then here's like all this extra DLC that you're gonna get for every character. You gotta pay this amount, right? Like I was playing, casually, I'm playing Dragon Ball Fighters, um, uh, and this game is like many years old, like several years old. It's not a new game, and so when I bought it, I bought the Ultimate Edition because it was on sale, and it comes with like all these DLCs, right? And if I were to buy each individual DLC and the game itself and everything, like all the characters and whatnot, I'd have to spend like close to, I don't know, 150, $200, right?
Yeah, it's not
Which
worth
is
it.
kind of silly. It's like, it's just silly because the game itself is like, I mean, at this point, it's like a $29, $30, or maybe $20 to $30 game, depending on when you get it, right? And then, like just adding on like additional character, right? Like Dragon Ball characters. Oh, you want to the fighting game, so you buy characters and whatnot. You can unlock them, or you can some characters you have to buy, and it's like it just it's like it really adds up, right? So I think we've talked about this before in the past. The concept of like how much are you willing to pay for a complete game? And I think back in the day when you bought a game, it was just like this
That's
is
it.
it, right?
That's it. It's
Yeah,
like you
like
didn't
this
get
is
anything
it.
else. Like all
Yeah,
like whatever.
I think
Like it started off with like I think like the PS3 generation where you get
yeah, yeah, yeah,
not 80-90% of the game, and then you get a crapload of DLC as well later
yeah. Well,
on.
I think there's nothing wrong with expansion packs. Like we still, expansions are fine, right? Like Age of Empires had expansion, StarCraft had Brood War.
Yeah, I have
There's
no
nothing
issue
wrong
with
with
that. It's a thing. Is
yeah, yeah,
if I need the DLC to actually play the whole story,
yeah,
then I have an
exactly.
issue.
That's exactly right. So StarCraft on its own is a great game. Brood War just made it better, right? Diablo on its own was a great game, right? But the expansion made it better. And so, it's about, can it stand? Does it have enough legs to be a standalone game that will survive and will be playable for like say 5 to 6 years, 7 years, right? And
Yeah,
or longer, right? And I think most of the games you see today are like, first of all, some games which it doesn't even make any sense. It's like an offline, it's like a single player game, but requires an online connection. Like it's just frustrating, right? So,
yeah. It's like
and
once
yeah,
the servers go down, the game's useless.
or if at some point, because like the problem with that is it's a single player game, but it's supported by servers, and that costs money. And so inevitably there will come a day where you can't play that game anymore. Even like you just can't, right? So to me it just doesn't make sense. But what they want to do is one, they want to prevent people from I guess one is like if you resell the game, right? They don't want you to resell the game. Or two, there's like a bunch of online things you can buy, like items in a game or next chapters or whatever, right? That they can sell you, and so I think part of it was like the benefit, like you were saying, the PS3 kind of era was like, oh, okay, like online became more prevalent, and internet speeds were much faster too, so it gave a way for developers to distribute content uh, very low cost, right? Like you just host it somewhere, somebody downloads it, kind of a thing. And because of that, I think the feeling was just okay. We can just quickly produce these games that are not 100% complete, sell them, and then just kind of figure out, like, let people play test, and then we'll balance the game, update, like, send patches, right, and then milk them for the DLC, right? So I think
Yeah.
you have to be very cautious now. So I don't regret actually. Like I don't feel like I'm missing out. Like with new releases or whatnot. Like I'll be okay. I'll just sit back and then let other people kind of play it and be like, oh yeah, this is a masterpiece or this is a piece of crap, and I'll kind of know like if the game is complete or not, just by hearing about it from others, right? So I think I think like that's the best. Not to mention like well, Nintendo AAA titles aside, a lot of games now like the prices kind of drop pretty dramatically. Like it's
Yeah, within half a year,
uh
it's like half the cost or
yeah,
less.
it's
It's
kind
like
of
you can see them for
it's
like
kind of
40,
crazy.
30, $40, and originally these
Yeah,
games were like $80 Canadian or like
yeah, exactly it.
$70
Yeah,
US.
yeah, yeah. So like uh yeah, I think cost is definitely like if you're I mean I think way back when it was like I don't know I felt like I want to say the N64 was like $120 or something, like the console, right? Um, and so like the fact that a game is now close to the price of a console is like saying a lot, right? So,
It's pretty
um,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think, um, I think there's nothing. I don't feel bad about like just. I don't feel like I'm missing out. There's a period of time I think when I first got the Xbox that I felt like, oh my goodness, like I need to play the latest games and whatever, because I felt like I was like, okay, like I need to, keep up and kind of take advantage, right? But now I'm just like, you know what, um, just just wait for the reviews, right? Like wait for people to kind of have a consensus on a title, and then by the time, like, because by the time I get to it, like it's gonna be a year since release date anyway, or more or longer, right? Who knows? So I just take recommendations from like friends and just hear them out like whatever they're playing. And to be honest, like single player games aside, like I'll play games like whatever my friends play, like whatever you guys play, I'm down, right? And I'm playing,
Yeah.
because you guys are playing it, right? So that's basically it. But yeah, in terms of like new releases, this year's a big one. I mean, or even like right now, there's already like Harry Potter, like the Harry Potter games out. Everybody's talking about that.
Yeah, there's a bit of
Um,
controversy around that with the original creator with J.K. Rowling.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's a like that's a big one, right? And I think controversies these days, right? Controversy is good because it like helps promote the title even more and I don't know, like I think it's died down a little bit, but I think a couple of weeks back when it first came out, like everybody was just talking about it, right? Like all the reviewers were like people were doing run throughs, like I see these like several hour videos of people doing walkthroughs and live streams and stuff. Like people would be playing like 12 hours straight, which is ridiculous. But yeah, it's like a big release, right? And then there's even more coming. Like I saw the trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6. I don't think it's coming out this year though, but
Who knows when
like
it'll come
again,
out?
that's
How long has
yeah,
GTA 5 been around? Like 15 years
like
before they
I don't
even
know, like
release anything?
over a decade, right? So
Yeah.
but yeah, look, that's another example of something that was fairly well done. They kind of botched the online, but um, uh, GTA 5 is a masterpiece, and
Yeah,
uh,
spanning like three console generations.
yeah, it's crazy. And like I mean, there's a remake, like it is like they up the graphics and whatnot, but like with 6 coming out, it's I mean that's huge. It's probably not this year. Who knows? We're probably 2 years away from it. But anyway, it's good to see a trailer. I think I saw one a couple days ago. Um, fighting games for people that are following fighting games. Tekken 8 is coming out, right? So that's like a huge thing. I don't know. I haven't really been full. I just kind of watch YouTube and whatever they recommend. I've been just looking at that, but I think yeah, like there's a lot of top tier titles coming out, but don't feel the need to to always be at the front of the line. There's lots of good titles um, that have already been released and re-released. So yeah, I just don't think there's that much of a difference between like or you know what? It's more about the story and the gameplay itself versus like the technical specification, right? Like I think in the past I used to care more about the technical specs than I do now. And it's been like this for a couple of years where I just don't think it's that much better. Like the graphics are great, like definitely there's like better graphics, better frames, whatever.
Yeah,
But it's like that's not the reason why I'm gonna be picking up the new game. Like
yeah.
it's like
It's like the
you know,
story is a big deal for us at especially for those that have less time and we do want to enjoy it. It's like and like the mechanics that make it actually like fun and it's like we're spending
yeah.
our precious time on a game that's like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think there's a lot of really popular titles now that are not necessarily like, oh, it's crisis level, kind of graphics and there's a lot more focus on like creating, a good story and interesting mechanics and good online community, right? Like that's something that I don't think you can actually design. Like it's like you just have to kind of like go for it and see if it happens, right? Like you really don't know if something will pick up or not. And uh, but yeah, I think a lot of Nintendo players, like people that are like into Nintendo games, like they'll understand like kind of the concept of not having the best tech, but having really good story, really good memorable characters, like good franchises, right? Like, like that's what kind of carries through. And I
yeah,
think I think to be honest, I think like Nintendo and Sony have done a pretty good job on that front, just having really solid franchises and not that Xbox, like not that Microsoft doesn't have that. I mean, they have really, and they purchased like they've bought other studios as well. But I think Microsoft and Sony are still kind of in that like we're gonna create like a beast of a machine
yeah. It's
and
arms race of
yeah.
high like
Yeah, yeah.
high
Which
end
I can't
graphics.
complain. Like I'm not complaining because I genuinely think that I think I said this like 3 years ago when I first got uh, the next gen console, Series X, because I thought like, and I still think that like this is it. Like I don't think there's gonna be a next gen console after this one. I think this is the last gen. Like I think past this, you're just gonna get a streaming box. Like it's gonna run in the cloud. You're gonna stream it. And everybody's internet connection is gonna be like so good, and hopefully, I mean, like the rest of the world already has it. We just have pretty crappy connection speed here, but we totally could have like much better speeds. And if everybody has like fiber level speeds, like you can stream HD games, like 4K games even. Uh, like just you don't need the hardware. You just need a streaming box, right?
Yeah, it's
So
yeah, the infrastructure technically is here. It's the companies aren't willing to give it to the consumers at a reasonable price.
reasonable at a reasonable price. That's right. So I think next gen. I think I just don't think that they're and especially because they like people being online and there's more control. You can't hack your machines. I don't think there's gonna, or even if there were a next gen thing, I think if it does come out, it would be like centered around like VR or something, right? Like it would be because of VR or because of something like local that you would need like this like whatever super hardware that they're gonna release. But if it's literally if next like like I don't know what is it life cycle, maybe like 5 years from now or
I think
whatever, four or
3 to 5
5 years.
years reasonably before we get in. Like I
Yeah,
think
yeah. Let,
two
let,
years
let's say
out.
5 years from now. Yeah,
I
let's say
think
five
two
years from
years
now,
out
right?
we'll get some kind of announcement, and reasonably
Yeah,
3 to 5 years for an actual like release.
yeah. So let's say 5 years. You know, I just don't think like if the game, if it's still like okay, you're gonna be looking at a screen, it's still the same control, like it's the same kind of thing, right? I don't see the point of me buying like another console. Like, how much better can it get, kind of a thing. Like, if that is the experience, right? Like, but if you're telling me like, oh no, 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 there's gonna be like VR or AR or whatever, right? Like, or something else, I don't even know, right? Something else, then like I can understand that, like spending the resources to kind of have a different experience, like to it's a totally different experience. But if we're still looking at a screen, like I don't know, man, like if I'm going from a 4K to an 8K screen, like is it that much of a difference, right? Like yeah, I
No,
need a
it's
lot more
like
processing power.
even now it's like not too many people actually own 4K,
And,
and
yeah, it's not. It's the difference is so small, like between 1080p and 4K. Like I'm not saying there's no difference. There's definitely a noticeable difference, but it's if you're immersed in the game, like it's to say that oh like the fact that it's not 4K takes away from the game, then I don't think you
it
fully
really doesn't
understand. Like
take much out
yeah,
of it. It's like it's nice
yeah,
to have the 4K bump, but
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's a luxury. And
Yeah,
what I'm
exactly. It's like yeah, it's less than 10% of the extra, if you will, right? So um, yeah. So you were saying,
yeah, it's like I'm listen. It's like a like most people don't like they still have their 1080 like full HD TVs. Most people haven't upgraded to like a 4K, so I don't see the need to bump up to like 8K. It's like it's way extra at this point until like maybe in like 5 years you'll see it like becoming like a little bit more mainstream going 8K, but like at this point it's a lot of
yeah,
horsepower wasted in like a console or a PC running things at
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
4K.
We talked about the concept of having 4K or 8K screens on your phone. It's a joke.
You
It's
don't
a
see
joke.
anything like if you're running 720 or 1080 or like full HD or close to it,
No,
you can't see a difference beyond
no,
like
no.
full
Seven
HD.
720 on your phone is actually quite. It's decent. Like it's fine.
It's quite good. Like 1080 or
It's so
thereabouts.
small. Yeah, yeah. 1080
Beyond
is yeah, beyond 1080, I really don't see the point.
not
Um,
on like a
uh,
6-inch screen, there's no point. Like once you get to something like your computer screen like 25, 32 inches, sure, like yeah, I can see that you want to
yeah.
go like
Well,
beyond
you're
like
also sitting. Yeah, yeah. And compared to a TV, I mean, you're sitting a lot closer, right? So same
yeah,
thing with phones. So I get it. I'm not saying like you don't want those, but it's like the benefit is so
like
small, right? And
diminishing
it's like
returns at
really,
that point.
yeah, yeah. So I don't think so. I think 5 years from now, if it's still the same experience, if it's still like I'm sitting in a room with looking at a screen that's like I don't know a couple of meters away from me, I just don't think I need like I think the hardware now can run it. It's fine.
Yeah,
But I think but I think like I don't think it's gonna be that though. I think it's gonna like we're gonna have the VR, we're gonna have the AR or something else. I don't even know what it is, but it ain't gonna be looking at a screen anymore, right? And
yeah.
so
The thing is with VR right now, it's like
yeah,
there's not many titles on it. It's expensive. You're looking at investing like probably an extra like $200 to $500 for an extra like headset just for like one person with the extra controllers for it. Not too many people are gonna like invest in it like at this point
yeah,
until
for
it
sure.
becomes
You, yeah,
it needs to be
yeah. So
affordable. If it's like
yeah, well, I think yeah.
if it's like
If it's no, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if it's like $150 for the headset and then maybe an extra like $100 for a pair of like the controls, like the PlayStation VR. If I set up like a pair of controllers for it was like $100, Like if it's sell it as a package for like $200 to $250 ish, it would be a little bit more tempting. But this at this point, there's not enough hardware supported, and like not enough games to support the that are supported by the VR's hardware, and the hardware itself is expensive for a
I
very
think
limited amount of games.
I think I think I think I don't think price. Like I agree with you that it is, like this the PSVR 2 is $800 Canadian on top of like it's a lot, right? Uh and then what is it, the Meta Quest 2 or whatever, it's like $1,500 or something. Like you're basically to get a VR setup, like the latest gen VR setup right now, you're looking at spending like with the console, right? Probably like 1,200 to $2,000, right? So it's a lot. It's right. Definitely a lot of money. And I agree that if they can get it down to like 150, 200 bucks, that's a price that a lot of people can get into. Like they can afford it. They can try it out, get into it, right? But I think the price is going to stay high, and I think the price is going to be. I think the challenge right now is not so much, okay, can we make it affordable? Because to your point, right? Like there's not that many. There aren't that many titles. The tech itself is still not very good. The PSVR 2 right now, like I've been watching reviews and stuff, and everybody's saying it's like very good. It's much like it's a huge step forward from the first gen, right? So if you think about like where we came from, like remember how like back in the day every gen was like such a huge step forward?
Yeah,
That's VR right now. Like every generation is going to be a huge step forward from the previous generation, right? And so it's not going to be cheap. It's like computers were always expensive. I remember like wow, computers were always expensive, and it got to a point like later on when it kind of like it kind of like it flattened, like it wasn't growing like as like each generation was not as large a leap from the prior generation, that then the prices kind of dropped, right? So it was like okay, then it was like super affordable,
yeah.
um,
Now you can get
but like
like a basic
yeah,
desktop for like $500, and
yeah, exactly,
it'll
and it does everything you would need it to do. Like
yeah,
there's no limitations. So
yeah,
like back in the day, it was like oh my god, you want to run video, you need to like buy a video card, otherwise like you can't load like 3D video or like view
yeah.
graphics.
You'll be fine without a
Yeah.
video card, but it's not great. Like it'll run, but
No, but
not
yeah,
great.
but the first computer I had, like, it literally could not render like video, right? Like, I remember this is like a Pentium 1 or 2, and it needed a video card because it needed like an upgraded video card in order for me to watch like a movie on it, right? And it was like low resolution too. It was like I don't know some like demo Power Rangers thing, and um, like that was a thing where like okay like have to be able to play like 3D games you have to like upgrade hardware, right? And I think VR is kind of in that category right now where it's like it's in that, I guess, that development stage where every generation is going to be a huge step forward, a huge step forward. So when that's happening, you're not going to see the price drop. Like the price is not a concern. Like they're not going to because one company is going to do something and it's going to be so good that other companies can't do it. So they're going to be like, I have to charge a premium, right, to recoup my costs and to kind of squeeze my or milk my advantage, right? So like because they might not have it in a couple of years. Right?
Yeah, for sure. It's
So uh,
the tech
yeah,
hasn't caught up to it hasn't matured yet.
yeah, exactly. So the PSVR 2 right now, like I've been looking at, I think the one that like I mean it's pretty convincing. Like the Gran Turismo 7, like the demos they had. I mean it's crazy. Like it looks like you're in the car. Like especially if you have a cockpit and the wheel and pedals and shifter and everything. It's like you're
Yeah,
literally driving. If you think about how much people spend on like going to the track or driving or whatever, like
you can get a setup. I mean, it's a fraction of the cost. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
exactly the same experience. But they have, you know, the ones, the seats, the cockpits that have the motors that rotate in three, like three
Yeah.
axis rotation. It's like I was watching this guy. He's like, I mean, they were racing before, but they used to race with these like huge panels in front of them. Like they would buy like 350-inch TVs and like mount them, right? And that would be like try to cover his field of view. But with the VR thing, like it actually, I mean, it makes sense because it's still expensive, but it's about the same price as 350-inch TVs. And he has this, like, I mean, the rest of the setup's still pretty expensive. I think, um,
It's
like
more
the cockpit, it's
compact.
yeah, it's more compact and it's more like now you can, it's three, like you could look around everywhere and it's all like rendered, right? Versus like even if you have three big screens in front of you, it's still like there's still screens. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not the same experience. So they were saying like so he was in it for I mean the PSVR two and then the console. His setup, the whole like cockpit and it was about 3 grand, and then so the whole thing he was in it was 4,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But for this person who's like really into cars, he's like, I could never afford this car, so I'm just gonna get the next best thing, which is like it is like it's like basically can't afford it in real life, so you're gonna buy it in a sim. Um,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. I mean, this guy's like, and the obviously like he's like it literally feels like you're driving because it moves and it shifts and like you like the whole mechanism, like the seat moves and everything. It's pretty crazy. And I was thinking like that's pretty crazy. Like basically 5K Canadian, call it right.
Yeah.
Um, it's not gonna drive whatever car he wants, kind of a thing. Pretty ridiculous. So I was thinking like okay, like in those very niche communities, like there will be people who are willing to pay that price because they're used to spending top dollar on these parts and whatever, right? But you're right. Like for the average person, like there's no way. Like, yeah, can you imagine like some kid asking their parents, like, "Yeah, I want the VR thing with the PS5. Like, I need a $1,500 setup to get this. Like, it's not gonna happen, man. Right? It's just an absurd amount of money to spend for video games, right? So
Yeah.
um, but 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 like I said, I think that's where the next gen, like if there is a you want to call it next gen console or whatever, like that's the only motivation for me to spend that much money to get like it's got to offer me not like just better experience on screen, but it's got to offer me something else, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's
It's
what I
like
think. So.
experience more than anything else at this point, where it's like, what can be done about it?
Yeah, I feel like the on-screen experience, like in a like on a TV in that kind of format, is pretty good. Like it's maximized. I think. I don't know. Maybe there's something somebody will come up with, but I feel like if you tell me, oh, it's gonna be 240 hertz refresh and 8K, like I don't know. Like that's like a very small improvement. I know technologically it's huge and there's a lot more processing power and everything. But like it's like you said, diminishing returns. But it's also like how cars, if you go 0 to 60, in 3.5 seconds versus 0 to 60 in like 2.9 seconds, like it like to get your car from 3.5 to it's probably not that big of a difference in terms of feel, but the amount of money you spend is going to be huge, right? To get that
Yeah.
half a second, right?
Yeah. It
But
could be
people still chase
the
it. People
yeah.
still, yeah, people
It's like
yeah,
the like getting from like 700 horsepower to like 1200. It's a lot
yeah,
of energy being put in, but
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's not that much. Like
Yeah, what do you get out of it, really? I mean, I mean, there are people enthusiasts will chase it and they'll say, "Oh, you don't understand. Like, it's totally worth it, right? Like, I'm gonna, an extra $50,000 into my car so I can make it go a second faster. Like, it's a huge difference to them. But for the average person, that's the daily driver, it ain't gonna be like they don't care. It's gonna be no difference, right? Or even if you're not driving it on the track, if you're just driving on the road, in all likelihood, you probably can't feel that half a second
It's like
difference all that much, right?
can't
And
like when are you gonna be able to like use it to like 100%? That's
yeah,
the thing for
exactly.
a lot of us.
Yeah, unless you're risking, dangerous driving or whatever, like you know, it's not a practical thing, right? So I mean, there are communities, there are people that will take advantage and they want that, right? And that's fine. But when you think of these large companies like building, spending so much and they're trying to create something for the general public, right? Not for like a small group of people, right? So I think and they're aware of that, right? I think right now it's sort of like let's just push the tech. Like I'm pretty sure, like whatever investment like Sony made on, like I think Microsoft gave up on VR, right? So like the
Yeah,
Xbox is
they
not going to get.
yeah, the closest thing we have was like what the Kinect a few years back,
Yeah,
and they
and then
haven't
they had
done.
they had the HoloLens, right? Which was like a concept. It was like that was supposed to be for the military. Like they wanted to like maybe it is for the military. Who knows, right? But like it was going to be ridiculously expensive to bring one home, right? So they're like, okay, yeah, there's no upcoming VR thing for the Xbox, right? Now Sony's made the investment, and they're pretty. I don't know if anyone's done the math, but like I'm pretty sure they're going to lose money on the VR headsets because uh, I just don't see them selling that many. I know it's incredible. Everybody's like saying it's great, right? Same thing with Meta, like Facebook's thing, the Quest Pro or whatever. Like, I spent $1,500 on a VR headset. Like, there are very few people that are going to be willing to do that, right? Um,
Yeah,
so I just don't think it's like. I mean, it will get there. Like, I firmly believe that um, AR and VR and all of that, it's gonna get there. But I don't think it's like this. I don't think this is the generation. I think you know, like you said, price is a consideration. Also, the utility of it, like content, like how many games, full-fledged games, do you really have that's like full VR? It's still pretty limited, right? Um, and so it's like top tier phone, but no apps on it, kind of a thing, right? So it's not like it's for the enthusiast right now, or someone who's like really well off, right? But for the average person, the average family, unfortunately, I just don't think it's worth getting really. I would argue if you have like a PS5, instead of buying the PSVR, you buy an Xbox or buy a Switch, right? Like get another console. Like you're probably going to get more value out of that
yeah,
than the specific experience you're going to get out of the one or two games that are fully rendered for VR, right? So, uh, but yeah, that's. I've been watching a lot of VR reviews, and I like it. Like I think that's the future for a lot of things. Like even in work, sometimes I think about it. Like, do I really need to be like I could just put on a VR headset and like I don't need a screen anymore. I could just use the monitor in VR, and it could be as large or as small or as many as I want it to be. Um, so I think about that, and I think about like, oh, maybe I like with work from home or whatever. Like I'll never need to go into office if we just VR into the office,
yeah,
right? So yeah,
or maybe like 20 years down the line, it's like you have this like hologram with projection of
yeah,
people
yeah,
like we
yeah,
have in
yeah,
Star Wars. If you remember the meetings that they had around like a table and it's just like hologram popping up of the person or people around for a meeting instead of
yeah,
commuting in.
exactly. And yeah, they had it's yeah, it's a like I think it's gonna get there. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily gonna be full VR. It might be AR instead. Like that might be the more realistic kind of thing. But right now, I mean, it's pretty good. Like the headsets they have now have cameras on the outside, so you can like see the outside if you need to. Um, it has. I think it was the HoloLens or maybe it's the Meta, the Quest Pro. It has a camera on the inside that sees your face, so it can still like render your face. So like how like if you were to take a photo of yourself wearing a headset, and you're walking around, it looks kind of weird. It's not you, right? Like
Yeah.
it can still like show your face and all your expressions and everything because it has a camera on the inside. It's able to stitch together like the camera on the outside plus the camera on the inside, so what your face looks like and what you're emoting, and like that kind of like the whole picture kind of a thing. So like if you're having a conversation with someone, it can still like stitch together your face. I mean, how good that is, I don't really know, but I'm just saying like it's getting there, right? It's like we're in maybe generation two right now, and a couple generations from now, I'm sure it's going to get to a point where it's much more prevalent, and then hopefully much more affordable, right? So
Yeah.
that's gonna be what gets it into everybody's household, like everybody's living room, right? Once they have that, then be like, okay, like
Yeah. If
it's
they
just
can
another
get it down
appliance.
to
Yeah,
like $200 to $300, it's gonna be a lot more enticing to the average consumer to pick one up
yeah,
instead of like
yeah,
close to $1,000 at this point.
yeah, exactly. Although I think again, like I think if the quality of content and like the utility is there, I used to scoff at the concept of $1,000 phone, and here we are, right? Like $1,500, $1,600 for the late. I personally still refuse to buy a phone that is like $1,500 or even over $1,000. I'm like I think I told you I'm just gonna stick with mid rangers.
Yeah.
I don't need the top tier, whatever. I just don't need it, right?
Yeah, like I
But you're
picked
right.
up,
Like if
yeah,
yeah,
like talking about phones, I picked up a phone like last summer, and I
yeah,
refused to pay 15 to 1,800 pre-tax for a brand new phone. Closest
yeah,
competitor would be like the Samsung like S21 or S22 Ultra. Picked up
yeah,
the ZTE Axon Ultra, like 40
yeah.
Ultra. After tax, it was I think 1,100,
Hmm.
and it's
Hmm.
like it's a lot like 50 to 80% more for the same phone from a competitor like an Apple or Samsung equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. It like on a from a specs perspective, it's actually like it's an absolute beast,
Yeah,
right? And you've done that before. Like you bought the OnePlus
the OnePlus
before. I think was it
5.
five, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
like
was
a
like
beast of a phone, and it lasted you so long,
yeah like
right? Like,
5.5 years. I think I picked it up for like 700 and change after tax when it came out.
yeah,
And
yeah,
previously, I had the Nexus 6 for like
yeah,
something like 3 years, and
yeah,
that was like
yeah,
off contract for I think in the ballpark of like $600 back then.
yeah,
Adjusted
yeah,
for
yeah,
inflation,
yeah,
it's probably around like $800 now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, totally. Like, I think, but that's just like that's us, right? Like I don't know. Uh, there's some people. The fact that they're selling it, like the S22 Ultra, the 14 Pro Max, or whatever that may be, right? The 1,500, $1,800 phones. It means that somebody's buying it,
Like
right?
enough people are buying
So
it at that price to warrant.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's the same thing with VR, right? Like if in the future it's like literally you're like, hey, look, for work, like it's like for work you need a computer, right? For work you need a cell phone. For work you need a VR headset, right? And it's like and if it's like, okay, hey, look, the trade-off is I get a VR headset, but now I don't need to pay for maybe our family has two cars, but now we can go down to one car, kind of a thing, right? Or maybe I can save on that Metro Pass that I was gonna buy or whatever, right? Like it's this the concept of like, okay, well, like if it brings enough utility into my life, like, and it provides convenience or whatever, right? Then like it could be justified. It could be justified. But I think as a form of entertainment and just like kind of casual use or recreational use, I should say, you're right. Like you really got to get it down. Like cheaper is better because that's how you can get more people into it. Get the kids into it, right?
Yeah,
Um, but if as soon as it becomes like if it's like, okay, like you need this to do work or you need this for whatever school or then all of a sudden you know, I think it's a different, it's swinging in a different league, right? Like your the price points are going to be probably, you know, thousands or in the thousands even, right? Like we're talking sword art stuff now. Like
Yeah, and
it's yeah.
as much as I'd like to have the Sword Art version of it, I don't think we're
Yeah.
gonna see it
Yeah.
anytime soon. Maybe in like
No,
20,
no,
yeah,
yeah.
20 years down the line, we
Yeah.
might have some kind of usable version for it that's gonna go for like 10 grand per unit in today's
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah.
And
I'd be hesitant to, I don't know. I'd be scared to try try it,
yeah, like
but yeah, like it. Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
if it actually does like come out, but it's like I wouldn't
Yeah.
get the first gen, maybe like second or third generation into
Yeah. Yeah.
in. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like it's been tested. It's and like it would be nice to have, but it's like it's not a necessity at this point to have like
Yeah.
VRs or full dive like Sword Art
Yeah.
version is it's
Yeah.
definitely not a mature technology at this point. It's gonna take a long time to get anywhere close to it being like usable and affordable for the
I,
average user.
I think yeah, you're right. Like it's you know, I I don't know. I feel like I might I might want to, because I've tried it at, like, you know, events or whatever, like VR headsets and whatnot. So I think I might try it out. Um, you know, I might jump on a little bit earlier if I think, you know, it has, if there's like one app that's, you know what it is, if there's an app that can, like, or a I don't want to say game, but like if 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 there's something that's like travel related, so like basically like if it's like VR travel, so like I can go somewhere and experience uh if you know, the environment of another country, like whatever city, as if I were there, and I can walk around and kind of experience things. Um, I would I would do it. Like I would spend the money because that, you know, the alternative, I mean, not that it's exactly the same, because obviously you miss out on the actual being there, the food and all of that, but just like sightseeing, right?
Yeah,
I feel like that would be incredible, like to be able to go all around the world and just like see the sights, like just to see that. I would pay a premium for that, because the alternative for me would be like buying a plane ticket and then flying like 12 hours somewhere, right? And I know it's not like the full experience. Maybe it's like 50% the experience, and if it's $1,500 for 50% the experience, I would do it, right? Um, but aside from that, like I don't know, like I don't think I would get it for like a game or something. That's too expensive for me. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to see like the things that people are coming up with and what they're saying about, you know, oh, like you don't need monitors anymore. Kind of a, like, even if you're like, I don't know if I could wear, like, I work a lot of hours right now, but like even let's pretend like I work a regular 8 hours, right? I don't know if I
yeah.
could keep a headset on for 8 hours. That's a
No,
damn long time.
it's heavy. And it's like at this
Yeah,
point,
yeah, yeah,
uh, like I wouldn't be able to. It's like a few hours here and there, but it's
yeah.
like if I'm sitting like working, it's maybe like screens, like physical monitor, like old school monitors are gonna be a better choice to have
I think
compared
it's better,
to
yeah, for your eyes too. Yeah, they say that you can't like be in VR for too long. Like you try to do it in bursts and get used to it. People get motion sickness and things like that too, right? So, uh, like I said, like, you know, if the right thing comes along, I might jump up. But otherwise, I'm with you. Like I'm gonna wait till it gets cheap, and then I'll a couple $100, and just try it out, kind of a thing. But I feel like the more likely scenario is that it comes something come like they come out with this amazing concept, or this like it becomes a utility, kind of like an appliance, if you will. Then
yeah.
I kind of have to get it, right. So then I think you're all jumping on board, but until that happens, I don't think I'm going to be jumping out, and I also don't think that if it's coming out like the PSVR 2 is, even though it's expensive, like it's $800. If you compare it to the Quest Pro or whatever the latest one is, um, it's apparently a bargain. And I think it's because like I think everything's a bargain when it's a console related, because they're banking on the fact that they can make money back by either grabbing market share, right? So subscriptions and whatnot, or you buying the games later on, right? So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like
like everything
everyone.
console, like it's a deal, right? It's still a good deal. But a good deal is still $800, dude. Like that's how expensive this shit is, right? So it's like it's yeah, it's pretty hefty.
Yeah, because like everyone, like Sony and Microsoft, they're banking on you buying games to make a profit, while Nintendo, they break even or make a small profit off the console itself.
Like a regular business, yes. Like a traditional business, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think yeah. I mean, I'm interested in it. I watch a lot of reviews and stuff, and I've tried VR. It's never been that great in my mind. Like it's never been so good that like I'm like, oh my goodness, right? It's
Yeah.
good, but it's never been like, I don't know. It's never been like mind blowing good, right? But
Yeah.
I'm watching these like PSVR 2s, and it's like people are like really hyped up. But mainly it's for like Gran Turismo, and I think the reason why is because your experience, if you're like walking around, it's a little bit different than if you're sitting in a car moving around, right?
Yeah, because
Like
like the one
I think,
yeah, because like
yeah,
the one experience that I do have with like VR was like maybe 7 or 8 years ago at
yeah,
like this like Ontario Science Center, which is like a like education center for like
hmm
geared towards kids mostly, but they had uh a gallery one summer where they had a video games gallery, and one of the exhibits
hmm
was VR, basically a VR game in a giant hamster ball. It's like,
oh snap, okay,
yeah, it's like it's a fun concept. The thing is that it's like it's just that it's not feasible for the average user to have something like that. Or you, although if you have like a some kind of like trackpad thing that you would walk on, that could be
yeah.
something that could be done, but it's still a huge investment if something like that were to go on to the public market.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, and for the record, I love the Science Center. I think it's great. I haven't been there in a long time. I wonder if they still have the same things. But, yeah, I don't know. I just, I think until it becomes like right now, a lot of people feel, and they say this too, like it's kind of gimmicky, right? Like you have, a short demo that's like incredible, right? And then outside of that, it's like, oh, what do I do now, right? Or we have one or two games that's like, okay. And I think the first step is probably like from the gaming side is that driving simulator experience, because it's easier to sim sitting in a car, like you're not moving, like your body's not really moving, right? And it's generally like your head position is the same, you're just looking around kind of a thing, right? I think the
Yeah,
next step is like what you were saying, like, oh, being able to like whatever mobile, like a treadmill. They have those like multi-directional treadmill things that you can get, but it's very expensive. How practical is it, right? But like that would be the next step, right? So there's a long way to go, and it's hard to say whether or not it's even going to be a thing. It's like, remember how 3D TVs were like supposed to be the next thing, and they kind of just died.
yeah.
Um,
It was all of a thing for like what 2 or 3 years, and then it just faded
yeah,
away.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So maybe VR is going to be like that. I hope not, because I kind of like this, like where things are going.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
a
see a lot
very
of
interesting
potential.
concept that like it should stick around, but it's like it has to get to maturity before anything else.
Yeah, exactly. There's not like critical mass. Like it's like you need to, like there needs to be a defining moment, or like you have to identify like, okay,
Like, what are we using this for? What is its primary purpose, right? And when you identify that, then it's like I think that's when everything else will kind of fall in place. But if it's like, okay, we're gonna VR this and VR the classroom and watch TV and you know uh, go to work on VR and drive your car in VR and like it's too many things, right? And it's like it's not focused enough. I think you need to find like the thing that wins, that takes this over the top, that'll win over the public is going to be like this one thing, like whatever it may be, right? Just does it super well, and everybody's like, okay, like this is what I'm getting it for, right? Um, and so I think when that comes out, that's really what's because right now, like aside from games, like you tell most people like VR, like there's no other function, right? And then even games, like what you were originally saying, like how many VR games do we really have, right? So, um, but yeah, it'll be good to see how things play out. But right now, like yeah, PSVR 2 is like it's getting a lot of positive reviews. It's pretty hype right now. So
Yeah, and yeah, it's that pretty much sums it for VR at this point for us.
yeah, it was a long discussion on that, but yeah, it's what I've been following for the last like week or so, week and a half, I guess. Um, but yeah, anything else you wanted to discuss or cover?
I think that's it for this week. It's been
Yeah,
quite a while since we've podcasted, so I think we'll leave it at that, and hopefully
yeah,
we'll be back sooner than later on with a new episode and some other talking points that we'll want to talk about.
yeah. I think it's some of the other guys on.
Yeah, for sure. And that's it for us for March 13th, 2023, and we will see you soon. Welcome, welcome, yo.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, yeah, we're good.
Nice. Yeah, man. So how's how's Cheryl? How's everything?
It's going. It's been so damn busy the last while, man.
Yeah. So you're but your work is still like around the GTA. Like, are the sites taking you far away, or
Most days it's like within the GTA. I have like one like way